Good morning from Rose Red Homestead. It is a very wintry day outside today. It snowed in the night and it is a winter wonderland outside. It's about 32 degrees out there right now, but we're remaining undaunted. We are pressing forward with doing canning today. In fact, we're going to do one of the easiest things there is to can, and that is raw canning for beef and chicken. So we'll be right back in just a minute to start our adventure. Beef chunks on my canning shelves out in the garage. And so for several weeks now, I have been watching sales. Jim and I, the way that we prepare to do a video or canning even on our own is to watch the sales, and we get as much as we possibly can on sale. And sometimes it takes a little while to build it up. And so we'll watch for a good sale on roasts or on chicken breasts, and then we will stock our freezer with those, and when we have enough in the freezer, then we will thaw them and chunk them up and get ready for a canning episode like the one we're going to show you today. We're going to be doing beef chunks and chicken raw, and this is called raw pat canning, and of course, because these meats are low acid, it is pressure canning. Meats are one of the most wonderful things to have on hand for quick and easy meals. I do both beef and chicken. I'm going to be doing some other things as the year progresses. It is possible to do chicken with bone in. You can just cut up a fryer and plug it down into a jar and can it that way, bones in. But we can what we like, and we like chicken breasts, and so we watch for sales on chicken breasts. Because I have still plenty of chicken out on our shelves, I'm just going to do a little bit of chicken today to demonstrate to you. And then last night we were really lucky. We stopped at the grocery store on the way home from work and happened to run into a half-price sale on this chuck roast. Now this is a very good quality chuck roast, and we paid only half price for it. And so this is 3 medium-sized roasts. I don't think I will fill a whole canner today with 16 pints, but I think we'll get maybe 10 or 12. So we'll see how it goes. So the easiest thing to do for raw pat canning is to just clean your jars, which I have done. This is 1 case of pint-sized jars, and I always do meats in pints. Jim and I are empty nesters, and so this is just the right size for us. But the great thing about canning is that depending on the size of your family, you can choose whichever size jar you would like. So I've just washed my hands so they're very clean, and all we need to do is just, here's the jar that we're going to use, and I'm going to start with the chicken first. And I will probably have enough for about 2 pints. So I'm just going to pick up the pieces, I cut it in chunks about this size, and I'm just going to drop them into the jar. Now, I'm not going to put any seasoning, any broth, anything in these. This is strictly raw pack, and according to the USDA, the best way to do raw pack canning is to do it just exactly like that. And so here is my jar of chicken. It has about 1 inch of head space if I mash this little piece down a bit. And because it will produce its own liquid during the canning process, you don't even have to put any liquid in these jars. So I'm just going to put these one at a time back in my case because I'll be carrying them outside in just a few minutes. So here goes the second one. I'm not sure I'm going to have enough for a third one, so we might only be doing 2 pints of chicken breasts. No, I'm going to have a couple of pieces left over, but that is okay. We'll just cook them up for lunch. No, that's too much. All right, so here's our second one of chicken. Now I'll set the chicken aside, rinse my hands, and now we'll start on the beef. Now we use this beef chunks probably more than the chicken chunks. Let me rinse this too. I will use these beef chunks for things like taco soup, beef stew, all kinds of soups. And it's interesting to note that you can use a less expensive cut like chuck roast when you're canning meat, because the canning process itself tenderizes the meat. It's just as flaky and delicious as can be. So I'm going to fill as many jars as possible, leaving about an inch of headspace. A couple more pieces in there. I'm curious to see how many we're going to get. So far we have 2. Now I trim this, even though it was pre-trimmed, there's always extra fat and gristle on these, as I'm sure you know. And so I spend a little bit of time at the beginning when I'm putting these in chunks to cut off the extra fat and gristle. So I'm guessing that we're probably going to fit at least 12 jars. I may have to go out and get a couple more jars. And this goes very, very fast. So we will have a whole batch ready for the canner in about a total of 10 minutes, which is great because we don't have to do any extra prep. And as I have mentioned in other videos, Jim and I are really focusing on a healthy lifestyle. And so, as always, I don't put any salt in any of my canning. And because I don't know in advance what I might be using any given jar for, I'm not building a foundation for anything in particular. It's just going to be these beef chunks that I can go pull off the shelf anytime I want to. It's so convenient. And then I also add these to my meal mixes that I pre-package, and I'm going to be doing a video on meals in bags here pretty quick. So you'll see some of the uses that I use this beef for. And the chicken as well. Well, I have 3 empty jars left. Let's see if we get to the end of the meat before we get to the end of the jars. I'm going to set that one aside. I may add another piece or 2 if I have enough when I get to the end here. All right, I'm out of beef chunks. I'm going to borrow a couple from some of these other jars to fill this one just a little bit more. One more. 2 more. Okay, now they're all filled, and we have 11 pints of meat ready to go into the canner as soon as I put the rings and lids on. Now, one of the things that I do when I can meat is that because there is the possibility that some fat might have gotten on the top edges of the jars, I will take a clean paper towel and moisten it with just a little bit of vinegar. Vinegar cuts the fat, and I'll just run around the edge, cleaning this top edge to make sure there's no fat here at all. And I have 1 empty jar left, so I'm just going to leave that one right here. Now these lids and rings have been washed and they are dried. And again, I'm going to be putting these rings on finger tight. Steam will be escaping from these jars during the cooking process, so I don't want them so tight that that steam can't get out. Neither do I want them too loose either. We want to be sure that we get a good vacuum. So no liquids at all. Raw pack meat, there's nothing easier to do. Now this keeps, according to the USDA, 6 months to 2 years. I can tell you from experience that I have opened some of my pints of meat that have been moved from one house to another across many, many miles, as old as 10 years. And it has been perfectly good. Now I no longer wait that long. We have gotten in the habit of really rotating things much more efficiently than we did several years ago. So none of this will last more than 2 years. In fact, this won't even last the end of the year. Okay, so these are now ready to go out to the canner. The canner has been simmering out there. It's ready to receive these. And so I will meet you out at the canner. Pardon my sunglasses. The sun is so bright reflecting off the snow, I can hardly see. So we're outside in my canning station, and I have loaded the canner. If you'll come over here close, you can see. If you look right inside the canner, I have put 6 pints on the bottom row and 5 on the top row, so it will be balanced. Now I'm going to put the lid on and slide it into place. The water was simmering when I put the jars in, and so the next step now is for us to wait for a great big head of steam to start pouring out of this vent. And we'll let it vent for 10 minutes so that the steam will replace the air inside the canner, so all measurements of pressure will be accurate. So we'll be back to show you that head of steam in about 10 minutes. The steam has been pouring out of this vent for 10 minutes, and we're now ready to put the weight on. So there we go. The steam is now all trapped inside. The first thing that has happened is that this air vent has popped up and is locked now in place, so no steam is escaping there. And you maybe can see this dial. It's already up to 5 pounds of pressure. Here on the Colorado Plateau at 5,000 feet, according to the USDA tables, we have to pressure can at 13 pounds of pressure. Be sure that you check your elevation and know whether you are to process at whatever pressure. If you have a gauged weight, it will either be at 10 or 15. If you have a dial gauge like we do, then it will be individualized according to your elevation. So once this gets up to 13, which is about right here, we're going to time this for 75 minutes. These are pints, and according to USDA, the time is 75 minutes. Then we will let it cool down naturally. We're not going to speed cool this at all. It's about 32 degrees out here, so it's going to cool quickly anyway. And then we will come back when we're ready to take these jars out of the canner. The canner has cooled down and it's at 0. You may be able to hear the dripping. The temperature has warmed up and the snow is melting very fast. It's still a little cool, but we're up in the 40s. But this has cooled down. This is at 0, but notice that the air vent is still up and the steam is still coming out just a little bit. So I'm going to tilt it to the side and let that steam completely come out all the way. And then I'm going to remove this. And the air vent just fell, so we're good. So I'm going to open this up. This is always the most exciting time to see what we have. So I'm going to open the lid in such a way that it protects my face. When I'm opening it, the steam is going the other way, and I can't wait to see what we have. Oh, these look beautiful. Here's a beef. Now look at all that liquid, and it's still boiling. We may hear some of these jars pop. I've got water on the top I'm going to tip off. But look at all the liquid that was produced. So I'm going to move it right over here to this cooling tray. And we'll quickly move all the rest. Here's the chicken. More beef. Now these will be okay out here for several hours until they're cool. It's going to freeze again tonight, so of course we'll bring them in before that happens. So this is the first 5 from that top shelf. Now I'm going to take a fork and lift up that separator and pull out the other 6. And these of course are all beef. And 2 more to go. That water is completely clear in the canner, which means the jars are going to be really clean. Okay, and there we have it. 11 pints of meat ready to go on our shelves in just a few hours. We'll let them cool out here, and then I'll take them in the house and wash the jars with hot soapy water and get them on the shelf outside. So I'm thrilled with our results today, and I hope you can see how easy it is to raw pack pressure can meats. And we'll see you next time for another adventure at Rose Red Homestead.